Every year, people enter caves and sinkholes that look manageable, even beautiful. Some never come back. These are 4 real stories of what happens when nature gives no warning and no second chances. Stay with me, because each one of these will change how you think about going underground. Story 1. The Mossdale Cavern Flood. On June 24, 1967, 10 cavers entered Mossdale Cavern in northern England with a clear mission: map the deeper passages and clear the way for future exploration. The 2 team leaders had been inside before. That experience gave everyone confidence. What they didn't fully appreciate was just how unforgiving this cave was. The passages were brutally tight. There were almost no sections where a person could stand upright. A few hours in, 4 members of the group made a decision that would save their lives. The cave was too difficult. They turned back. On their way out, they noticed the sky had turned overcast, but nothing alarming. The remaining 6 pressed deeper, eventually reaching a passage called the Far Marathon, just 18 inches wide and 12 inches tall, with a shallow stream running along the bottom. On the surface, it started to rain. At first, no one was concerned, but inside the cave, the water was already rising. When the levels became alarming, the 6 cavers made the call to head out, even knowing they were still 3 hours from the entrance. What they didn't know was what had formed outside. The group on the surface watched in horror as a lake spread across the cave entrance. Water was pouring in faster than anyone could have predicted. The surface team ran for help.
Help, someone!
Rescuers arrived quickly, pumping water out and pushing oxygen in, hoping the cavers had found an air pocket somewhere inside. They hadn't. All 6 cavers drowned. It remains one of the deadliest caving accidents in British history. Story 2. The Shaft Sinkhole. On May 28, 1973, 9 experienced divers gathered at a place called the Shaft, a sinkhole near Mount Gambier, Australia. It had one remarkable feature: a narrow opening at the surface sent a single beam of natural light down into the cave and onto the lake below. That beam was the diver's compass. As long as they could see it, they knew where they were. Everyone agreed on one rule before entering: a maximum depth of 200 feet. That kept them in the main chamber, inside of the light. On the second day, 4 divers pushed for something more. They wanted to enter the western branch and aim for 250 feet, a new personal record. It was deeper than planned, and it carried a serious risk. In 1973, divers were still using standard air tanks, not the mixed gas equipment used today. At extreme depths, the nitrogen in regular air gets forced into the bloodstream under pressure, producing a condition called nitrogen narcosis. The effects are disorienting, similar to intoxication. Judgment fades. Decisions become impulsive. These 4 were experienced open water divers, but cave diving is an entirely different discipline. One diver felt nitrogen narcosis setting in and immediately turned back. Several others followed, but 4 continued down, determined to reach that depth and return quickly. They never came back up. When the surface team grew concerned, a few divers went back in to search. What they found at the bottom were a flashlight and a camera, but no divers. The problem had started with the silt. The movements of the 4 divers had stirred up decades of settled sediment, creating a sand cloud that reduced visibility to less than an arm's length. With no reference point, no light, dwindling air, and nitrogen narcosis clouding their thinking, they lost their way entirely. All 4 drowned. Story 3. Jacob's Well, Taiku. Jacob's Well is located in Wimberley, Texas. From the surface, it looks like a simple swimming hole, a circular opening dropping about 25 feet. Locals swim in it. Tourists visit it. It looks harmless. It isn't. Below that 25-foot drop is an underwater cave system with 4 chambers. The first 2 are relatively open. The third has a tight squeeze, just barely passable. If you get through, you enter a room about 10 feet tall. At the far end of that room is a tunnel just 2 feet in diameter. 2 people died in that tunnel 2 years earlier, trapped by a gravel slide from inside. The local diving instructor, a man named Don, was the one who recovered their bodies. He'd spent years warning people away from Jacob's Well. He even tried to seal that 4th chamber with cement. Other divers broke it open and left a note: "You can't keep us out." Don himself nearly died there. Attempting to enter the 4th chamber, a gravel slide trapped him in the tunnel. His tank ran empty. He swallowed water. Somehow, survival instinct took over and he clawed through enough gravel to break free. When he surfaced, the expanding air in his body had caused his stomach to rupture. He broke the surface screaming. On November 23, 1983, 2 Texas State University students, Richard and Clark, entered Jacob's Well. They were working toward their open water diving certifications. Cave diving was outside their training. They reached the 3rd chamber. Richard removed his tank to squeeze through the narrow passage, holding it in front of him. When Clark tried to follow, he saw Richard's face, and Richard no longer had the tank. He was suffocating. Clark got the regulator to him in time. They passed it back and forth as they worked their way back through the squeeze. Then they heard it, a clank. The tank had struck a wall. They were heading the wrong direction and the air was nearly gone. They had entered the false chimney, a tunnel in the first chamber that appears to lead up but dead ends. Clark made it out. He swam 75 feet on a single breath and broke the surface, gasping. Richard didn't make it. When Clark called for help, Don, the instructor who had warned everyone for years, was the one who showed up. He stood there in disbelief, looking at his own student's name on the gear. Story 4. Gollum's Cave. On August 18, 2005, 5 friends decided to explore a cave in Turkey known locally as Gollum's Cave, or simply, the Cave of Death. They arrived at 3 a.m. One friend chose to wait outside. Getting in required crawling through a shallow pool of water. Past that, the tunnel split left and right. They went left, which led to another pool, and beneath it, an underwater tunnel about 3 to 4 feet wide and 15 feet long. The only way through was to fully submerge and swim. One at a time, they made it through. On the other side, they found a chamber with roughly 3 feet of breathable airspace above the water. The friend outside waited. No light, no sound. After a while, he went in to check. Still nothing. He called friends with caving experience, then called the police. Inside, the 4 had likely discovered what cavers call bad air. An atmosphere with dangerously low oxygen and elevated carbon dioxide. It impairs your thinking, your movement, and your ability to hold your breath. The return swim through that narrow tunnel, already difficult, became nearly impossible. One by one, they attempted the swim back. The carbon dioxide had already affected them too deeply. The first person couldn't locate the exit before running out of breath. The second went in and found the first, then the third, then the fourth. All 4 became trapped in the tunnel. Rescue teams arrived and pumped in oxygen while pumping out water. Families waited outside. It wasn't enough. All 4 were recovered later. The cave was permanently sealed with cement. These weren't reckless thrill seekers. They were curious people, some experienced, some not, who underestimated environments that don't forgive mistakes. If you found this video worthwhile, please subscribe. I cover true stories like these every week. Drop a comment below telling me which story hit you hardest. And if you want to be part of the conversation or suggest a topic for the next video, the WhatsApp link is in the description. I'll see you in the next one.